Yeah, so this is cool. It's like an art exhibition. But it's just some guy in a building site, I guess, has made it. There's a building site. Look at the fucking security cameras. And, yeah. Anyway, everything I'm on about these days is all about language. The way we use language is kind of rubbish. Like, it's just consumer thrown away. We consume without even digesting most of what we are consuming, kind of thing. Anyway, there are signs and symbols everywhere. And this is a bit of a strange one because this little pathway has been closed down, really, kind of thing. And yet, look at the sign. Isn't that strange? Anyway, I also like this in terms of all the right-wing stuff. Mortar, quality mortar, concrete beliefs, right when you need it, kind of thing. And it's in a silo. It's a concrete silo. And more about weeds and also humans with their rubbish. But look, there are blossom flowers from the hawthorn trees. Thorn trees are fairy trees, and the concept that fairies are like weeds. You can try and wipe them out, but we will never die out. We will always spread our seeds, and there will always be more of us. And you can tend a garden and make the garden beautiful and have all kinds of like really rare breeds and stuff, but there will still always be weeds. And you can have really civilized people, but there will still always be fairy folk. And here are the words wanker, which somebody has graffitied type of thing. But see here? So this was once a useful pathway, and here's a kind of a road which was once a road which is no longer a road. And this is an area that hasn't been redeveloped, kind of thing. This was on the outskirts of town. This was once past the edge of town. And here we are with a kind of industrial area kind of thing, which was also a nature area. So how quickly something can go from being a nature area to being a built up industrial area is pretty crazy. And then we go here this little bit further. Can you see this in the distance? So one thing to see here is the British flag. Half-mast, you could say. But look what it's hanging from. It's hanging from a 5G tower. And the 5G tower actually requires loads of energy to transmit and receive all this stuff. And so, hey dude. You're not a friendly human. Yeah, they need so much energy to transmit and receive, sending out the master frequency so that all of our slave phone frequencies can receive the signals from the internet. Listen to how noisy this is. So you think it's all in the cloud, but actually it's all energy, flammable liquid. Badoom, badoom. Yeah. There's the sun is a transmitter receiver. Did you know the sun is involved in somehow maintaining the virtual world of the physicality that we live in? Here's a spiral staircase. And there's a bridge over a roundabout. There's the tires from a truck, from a blowout. Across the road is more industrial stuff. I'll take you away from there. But here we have some brush and the lovely yellow leaves kind of thing. But that's called broom. Broom is another weed. And with brooms we used to make broomsticks for actually cleaning our houses because it's good for gathering up the dust. Covet or us. Welcome to Dumfries. So this used to be like a main road. Then more roads get built as more infrastructure is created. Layer upon layer upon layer. And each layer that we create with our intelligence is what's called a simulacra, where you're building layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon what was our original nature. And here, I don't know if you can see this, but this is an ant. That's an individual lone ant. Oh, there's more ants. Now, in language, we are called inhabitants. Inhabitants of Earth. And inhabit, we are like ants. And we can get antsy. But ants have a hive mind, and humans have a hive mind. In fact, the civilized mind of man is like a hive mind. This is all difficult stuff to get your heads around. It has been difficult for me to get my head around. This is essentially a kind of an insanity, and yet sanity is based upon this insanity, for sanity is really order imposed upon chaos, kind of thing. And if we lived in total chaos, we would have to try and develop some sort of order to make sense of how to organize ourselves in order to be able to live in the midst of chaos and live longer and be prosperous. Prosperous sounds very like phosphorus. So Lucifer is considered to be the devil, and yet Lucifer is phosphorus. Lucifer is prosperous. Posterity. Anyway, I just want to show the playing with words and how it goes, and how new developments are happening all the time, because the population is growing all the time, because the population is involved in copulation all the time, and all that increased copulation is increasing the population, which in turn, in a feedback loop, is increasing the population, which increases the population, which means we need more of these high-rise flats. And, you know, it's crazy. The language, I mean, is crazy. High-rise flats for people to build in, which means it has many stories, and all of those people living together in apartments stacked up on top of each other, all of those people have stories. So there are many stories living in the flats, and the flats are stacked on top of each other and beside each other in apartments, and the apartments actually mean that they're so close together that you couldn't fit a hair in between one flat and the next flat in the apartments, kind of thing. And the apartment stores are where you store things for a little while until somebody else buys them and takes them home. Apartment. So anyway, question what you think is sanity, because it's actually insanity, because none of this really makes sense, but the whole thing makes sense. But the whole thing only makes sense now that we have the internet to realize that the whole thing is actually virtual. Actual virtual insanity. Yeah. So the ancient spirituality would say that our human bodies are actually avatars, and that the soul comes down inside of the flesh for a time and then leaves the flesh, goes back to soul realm. Never actually left soul realm, but it's like if you put your hand into a lake, it's not that your hand leaves your body, but it goes into the medium of water. And when you take your hand out of the water, it's not as if you ever left the air of the lakeside in order to put your hand into water. So the analogy is there that when my soul puts a bit of my soul down into my body, into the physical realm, that's like putting your hand into the body of water. Water into the feeling realm, into the field of feelings, kind of thing. And when one dies, one retrieves one's hand from the medium, kind of thing. The part joins the whole again, having had a sensational experience, kind of thing. And maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that analogy is quite accurate for what it is, and therefore this physical realm, this feeling field, this mental abstraction which we have simulacra-wise built upon the feeling realm in the physical realm, is a virtual realm. And in that sense we do live in a visualization. We live in light, kind of thing. And we therefore live in the outer world because we're living in what we see. We're living in a sea of sight, kind of thing. And when one closes one's eyes, the world is still there, but you can't see it. And when one goes to sleep at night, the world is still there, but you're no longer experiencing the outer world because you're asleep. And essentially your conscious mind has disengaged from the physical world and the avatar life. And when we awaken in the morning, we switch on our senses and begin to interact as characters in the staged playground or work zone or whatever. I'm just going to leave it at that, but yeah, anyway, there you go. Blah, blah, blah.